I got Jenny Horn with me in studio, hosts of Next Gen, to talk some stuff that might help us out this morning. We got the economic data the way we want it, Jenny. Can we get some tech commentary the way we want it too? It sounds like someone from, Bank of America might help us out with some NVIDIA bullishness.
Yeah, and I will say that NVIDIA, I do feel like we saw even in yesterday's session, the strength in which this day was trying to come back with. I guess, how do we recover all these losses?
Right.
Lost about 140 billion in market cap on Monday. So still, looking still interesting. With B of A with a buy rating, $200 price target, saying that this is a very compelling price ahead of the GPU tech conference next week.
That's a double, by the way. Sorry. From now, I don't think, just to remind people, because this thing dropped to $100.
Yeah.
It's almost a double they're looking for.
That is a double. That's a good point. That's a substantial increase. And I think it's interesting that they highlight the pipeline and the areas of focus they'll talk about at this conference next week, which makes it attractive, albeit well-expected updates, which they do expect on Ultra, Rubin, and the next generation networking for these scale-up opportunities and long-term opportunities. But all things considered, I think GTC, there's a mixed report, because I've seen some notes that highlight it's actually a positive catalyst for the stock, and some basically say it doesn't really necessarily specifically tout on AI. It's more like technology and gear focus. So we'll have to see, because
Sure.
I've seen pretty mixed feedback, though. Well, there's something ahead.
Is he going to get on the stage?
Well, I bet.
Yeah,
he was a keynote speaker the last time, right?
Yeah. So, all right. Anytime, Jensen makes an appearance, it's been a while since, we've seen him. I haven't seen the leather jacket in a little bit. We've kind of been missing it since it dropped as hard as it has. So anything, I think, at this point to kind of jazz up the narrative a little bit, put a little pep in our step.
Well, right, because I feel like when you look at, just near-term catalysts for NVIDIA, or what the options market's implying, there's really not a lot to be excited about, but at least we have this. So yeah, I think we're clinging on to just updates and catalysts, if anything, for NVIDIA that aren't just weighed down by the overall macro. So the more and more that they can continue to remind people of why we saw shares rise, why this was the best performer for the last year, I think it's huge.
Narrative power.
Right. I think talk about Blackwell, talk about the ways in which you're still innovating, and erase this whole DeepSeek narrative that I know the markets are quick to forget, but I feel like in tech that's still this massive looming overhang.
No, for sure. We never recovered, because that was the DeepSeek sell-off right here, and then we came back and failed again to get above that level. So the $50 $40 to be precise, drop here from the highs, I think sets NVIDIA up for any kind of news flow to potentially then become a short-term narrative, which obviously the market could use right now. So Bank of America is saying $200, you're going to make almost 100% on this trade at this point, is a pretty big number to put out there. So we'll see if it pops the stock.
Leading graphics processor manufacturer, NVIDIA's shares increased 6.9% during the morning session as markets picked up steam after the Bureau of Labor Statistics released better-than-expected inflation data for February 2025. While headline inflation was 2.8% year-over-year, compared to predictions of a 2.9% Y-to-Y increase, the Consumer Price Index, CPI, which measures the average price that consumers pay for goods and services, up 0.2% from the previous month, compared to 0.3%. The report showed that while inflation was still not quite at the Fed's 2% objective, it was nonetheless getting closer. The feeling was mostly positive, but the reaction wasn't particularly dramatic. The Nasdaq led the way with a 1.4% rise, which benefited certain tech firms. According to Wall Street experts, some of the Magnificent Seven companies that had previously experienced a decline were now trading at fair prices, making them attractive entry points for investors looking to capitalize on their potential comeback. Additionally, according to Reuters, TSMC contacted chipmakers NVIDIA, AMD, Broadcom, and Qualcomm on a possible acquisition of Intel's foundry division. Is it time to purchase NVIDIA? Over the past year, NVIDIA's shares have experienced 28 swings of more than 5%, making them extremely volatile. In light of that, today's action suggests that while the market views this news as significant, it is not enough to drastically alter its opinion of the company. The last significant move we covered was 9 days ago, when the stock fell 7.9% on news that market volatility persisted. The stock appeared to be impacted by the overall decrease, as the Nasdaq down 1.3% in yet another dismal day. Another wall of concern about the U.S. economy was raised by the revelation of tepid economic manufacturing and construction figures. So what implications does this have for NVIDIA's stock? Let's explore that. But first, a big thank you to those of you who've stuck with us this far. Creating these videos takes significant effort and dedication, so if you're enjoying the content, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts on NVIDIA stock in the comments. Your support truly helps us grow. Now, let's get back to the video.
Options activity and the look at the chart for NVIDIA. Time now to take us through the example trade. We've got Tom White, senior options contributor and co-host of Fast Market. So, Tom, how would you structure an example trade? We've got obviously a little bit of bullish sentiment, it looks like, with Bank of America's call on NVIDIA. It's had a difficult year. So how would you go about an example trade?
Yeah, bullish for maybe a few reasons here, Diane, due to the fact that, it's still 25% off of those all-time highs that we saw above $153 a share, down about 10% so far this month. The stock looks like it's going to open up around $113, so seeing a nice little bump here today. Implied volatility levels are coming down on that. So I looked at a strategy that takes advantage of that GPU Tech conference next week, where they're going to give us some insights on the chips, the Blackwell, the Rubin coming, and some of the others, autonomous driving, humanoids, robots, everything across the board. Typically, we see a rally into that. So this strategy takes advantage of that while offsetting some costs. I use this type of strategy, which is an unbalanced call butterfly, instead of just buying the straight vertical in here. Going out to the March 21st monthly cycle that expires in 9 days, we're going to buy one lot of the 112 strike call, slightly in the money. We're going to sell 2 of the 120 strike calls, and then buy 1 of the 122 strike calls. So it's unbalanced, where basically you're buying about an $8 wide bullish call vertical, offsetting some of the costs by selling a $2 wide call vertical within this strategy. That's why it's unbalanced. You're paying, if the stock opens up here around 113, your debit will probably be about $2.50. So that's going to be your risk. $250 per spread on that. Takes your break even up to 114.50, and that's only about $1.50, $2 above the current share price in there if we open up at about 113. So you don't need that monster move to the upside. And because it's unbalanced, even if it does rally past 122 over the next week and a half, you're still going to get more than a double in profitability. You want it to go at or near that 120 strike you can see here from the risk profile, but anything above that break even of about 114.50 is going to be profitability on this unbalanced call butterfly.
Well, this definitely example trade seems to make sense, especially not just in the context of the news, but given its performance. And we talked to different voices who have said recently, many in the Mag 7 just look over, so definitely do.
The company's operations in China, which had been embroiled in the drama of the trade war, also probably worried investors. Notably, the Wall Street Journal found that some Chinese buyers were buying NVIDIA processors in violation of export rules. As a result of this announcement, authorities may pursue more stringent regulations, severely restricting NVIDIA's operations in China. At $115.84 per share, NVIDIA is 22.5% below its 52-week high of $149.43 from January 2025, and it has lost 16.3% since the start of the year. If investors had purchased $1,000 in NVIDIA shares 5 years ago, their investment would now be worth $21,418. If you haven't been living under a rock, you're already aware that generative AI will profoundly transform the way large enterprises function. To stay informed about the latest developments from NVIDIA and the ever-changing stock market, consider subscribing to our investing tutorial channel. We provide daily updates on significant market shifts and key catalysts, so hit that subscribe button to ensure you never miss crucial information. We'd love to hear your thoughts on NVIDIA stock, so please share your opinions in the comments below. Now let's dive into today's video.
Cat, the Duke of Data, technically speaking, lead market technician. All right, Rick, what trends are you seeing when it comes to this chart for NVIDIA? It's really had a difficult year.
Yeah, when we look at this one, we can see a chart that was this lauded success story over the past couple years here, but really it hasn't made a lot of net movement during the past, 9 months or so here. So when we look at our chart, we can see that we have faltered a bit. We are falling below a longer-term trend line. We are also falling below our purple 252-day EMA in recent days here. We had a supportive area on our chart that matched up with a series of previous lows from back in the middle of our chart there. You can see around that point. And then we also would have another low point to watch out for along those subsequent lows there where we had our initial gap up, Diane.
Yes, and then what kind of notable options activity did you see in the stock yesterday? Sorry, guys, there's a lot going on the floor right now. But Rick, talk to me about the options activity you saw yesterday.
Sure. Very active open interest here for this particular stock, one of the highest out there. Total calls and puts for just the March 21st expiration come in at about 4.7 million for the open interest here. So the top calls, 120 to 160, highest in that general area. On the puts, it's 100 to 130, with those two top strikes, 120 and 120 being some kind of notable outlier values. In terms of interesting trades, we had a long-term synthetic short selling calls in order to buy puts for $2.75 million in the December 18th, 2026 expiration series. And also, another trade, someone bought two lots of about $11 million each of the December and January 2026 50-cent strike calls. I didn't even realize that existed.
I know. I'm like 2026 taking us out there. That's certainly some time on the horizon for that trade to happen.
Wednesday morning saw a roughly 7% increase in NVIDIA stock as market optimism increased in anticipation of the GTC 2025 conference. Shares have dropped more than 15% and are still almost 24% below their peak in early January, despite a difficult year. The market's newfound confidence is indicated by the rally. To alleviate concerns about continued tariff rises and national security limitations on semiconductor exports to China, investors are increasingly focusing on potential conference catalysts. This opinion is supported by a recent analyst note from Atif Malik of Citigroup, which keeps NVIDIA as a buy with a price target of $163 and predicts a 43% upside even after today's rise. NVIDIA may form a joint venture with a group of important semiconductor companies to run Intel's foundry operations in the United States, according to sources. This could be a strategic move by NVIDIA to enhance domestic production capacity while reducing the risks connected with metal tariffs, which would also benefit the company's long-term growth. Don't forget to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your input helps create a more knowledgeable community where we can all learn and grow together in the world of investing. Stay up to date with the latest market trends, insights, and key updates by subscribing to Investing Tutorial. We're here to help you make smarter investment decisions and stay ahead of the curve.